So he's now been the victim of 2 assassination attempts. Whatever you think about his politics, there's a personal strength and resilience there that is absolutely unbelievable. Think of all the attacks over the years, legal and political and verbal, and now you see physical. He just carries on. Hello everyone, welcome to the Steve Hilton Show. It is Tuesday, September the 17th. Guess what day it is? You may not be listening to us on Tuesday, September the 17th, but it's a very important date nonetheless. It is National Constitution Day, and I have something to say about that later in the show. We've also got an amazing conversation about this list of things that Gavin Newsom has put out. Honestly, you won't believe what he is now claiming as examples of California's, inverted commas, leadership. It's absolutely stunning. And some really interesting conversations also with some unusual guests for us, actually. But these are business owners in California, and they are visibly and vocally Republican Trump supporters. And we're going to hear from them about what that's like, running a business like that here in California. But I want to start with the big story, which, of course, is the Trump assassination attempt, the second one. And I've got 2 things to say about that. One of them is about the hypocrisy that we're seeing from the Democrats and the media in relation to the threats against President Trump. And the other point I want to make is what this tells us about the candidates. And I don't think you've heard this from other people in any of the coverage. I certainly haven't seen it anywhere. I'll get to that in a second. But let's just look at what's been happening. Pretty much all the time, Donald Trump has been on the political scene, but it's got worse and worse and worse. You see this incredibly elevated rhetoric from the Democrats about how he's a threat to democracy. I think Kamala Harris said he's an existential threat to America and our democracy and our security. You've got people saying he must be stopped. All this rhetoric. Let's just listen to some of the many examples.
Donald Trump is an existential threat to our democracy and our most fundamental freedoms.
Democratic rhetoric has not escalated in any way. He has always been a threat to democracy. We've always said that.
Don't give them the power. Look, are they a threat to democracy? Yes.
President Biden has been clear-eyed about the threat that the former president represents to our democracy.
I don't understand why it's so difficult for the press to have a consistent narrative about how dangerous Trump is.
Now, actually, I don't think they really mean that. I really don't. I think it's just sort of classic political rhetoric. And in fact, I don't believe that there's a direct connection between that kind of political rhetoric and some, absolutely clearly mentally disturbed. I mean, someone who goes out and tries to assassinate the president, there's something wrong with them, obviously. And so I don't think it is a direct connection at all. But the reason I want to bring it up is that when you look at it the other way, and you have Democrats condemning rhetoric from Republican politicians, in particular Donald Trump, they do say, the Democrats say, well, that's an incitement to violence. And they even make it up. Look at how they treated President Trump's remark the other month when he was talking about a bloodbath, right? And he was very clearly talking about a bloodbath in relation to the car industry. If he wasn't elected, they immediately took that word, totally distorted what he meant. It was very obvious he wasn't talking at all about anything other than the economic future of the car industry. And they immediately turned it into Donald Trump is threatening a bloodbath if he doesn't win the election. Literally a murder and violence and mayhem. That's what they said, that his words are an incitement to violence. But now when it's their turn, and when Republicans argue that the Democrats' words about President Trump are an incitement to violence, they say, oh, no, that's just normal political rhetoric. Don't mean that at all. Now, just to be clear again, I don't think any of these words uttered, whether by the Democrats or the Republicans, are in any way an excuse or justification for actual violence by these crazed people. Of course not. And of course, it's true that political language down the ages is full of terms that if you wanted to, you could argue are incitements to violence. I mean, look at the name of my show, on Fox News called The Next Revolution. So many times in the course of history, revolutions have involved violence when you're trying to overthrow a regime or whatever. The American Revolution, to pick a random example. Does that mean that every Sunday night when I said, welcome to the next revolution, I was inciting violence and some kind of revolutionary assault on the government, on the regime? Or, for example, when Bernie Sanders constantly, in his first campaign at least, constantly talked about a political revolution. That was his main theme. And so politics is full of this kind of language. Of course, it doesn't mean that the people saying that are actually inciting violence. But can we please just have the same standard applied to both sides? When Republican candidates use language that has some kind of connotation potentially to violence, it's condemned by Democrats and as an incitement, but when Democrats do it, it's totally fine. I mean, that is just a totally outrageous, unacceptable double standard, and it's got to stop. Now, I don't have any great hope that it's going to stop, but we should just call it out for what it is. The second point I wanted to make, in a way the more serious point, is what this whole incident tells us about the candidates that are in front of us as we prepare to vote in this presidential election. I think it says something interesting about both candidates. Let me explain. First of all, you look at President Trump. So he's now been the victim of 2 failed, thankfully, assassination attempts. But just look at the way he goes on and the way he continues to campaign and the way he carries himself. The resilience of this person is just quite extraordinary. Whatever you think about his politics, there's a personal strength and resilience there that is absolutely unbelievable. Just carries on regardless. Just think of all the attacks over the years, both in legal and political and verbal, and now you see physical, and he just carries on. And the connection I want to make is this. I've been around politics and government for a long time. And the thing is, when you have candidates running for office, they make all these promises, and that's fine. You make the promises, and you get elected, you can try and deliver them. But actually, in my experience, when you're in the government, most of what you spend your time on is dealing with unexpected future events that you can't predict. You're dealing with the world as it is, real life. Nothing to do with delivering your promises. Of course, you try and deliver your promises, but most of your time is spent dealing with incoming, as you might say. And so actually, when you're voting in an election, what you're really doing is choosing what kind of person you want in the hot seat to face unpredictable future events. And the fact that Trump is so resilient, so strong in the face of all this, tells you, I think, something important about how he would operate in office. And of course, we've already seen that because he's been in office. But I think the resilience and strength on a personal level is actually something very important to bear in mind when we think about the political aspect. And then you look at the other side of the equation, and you look at Kamala Harris, and constantly bragging about how she's a leading person in the Biden-Harris administration. Here's something that really hasn't been noted sufficiently clearly. So you had the first assassination attempt on President Trump. You would think that after that, you'd have a total rethink of security around this particular candidate. But then listen to what we heard after the second assassination attempt, the second failed attempt in Florida, the sheriff, who just put it out very clearly. And I'm not criticizing him at all. I think he was accurately describing the situation. He said, look, because the attempt was made on the golf course, he said, there's a perimeter there that isn't, that securing that perimeter does not go with the level of protection afforded Donald Trump. He's not the president now. He's a candidate and a former president. So there's a certain amount of protection that goes with that, and it does not include securing the perimeter. And that's why you have this unbelievable situation where if it wasn't for the amazing skill of that Secret Service officer who spotted the gun pointing through that fence, to me, that's almost impossible that he would have seen that. Of course, these are highly trained people, so he did spot it, and disaster was averted. But isn't it revealing what that sheriff said, that he's just treated the same? And there's a real problem there. Because, yes, of course, it's true that he's not the president now. He's a former president, and he's a candidate. But he's also a former president and a candidate who has already been the target of an assassination attempt. And you would think, wouldn't you, that as a result of that, they might raise the level of protection, put it on a par with the president even. But that didn't happen. Now, why does that connect to the presidential election? I bet you what happened is this, that they, in the White House, they had some kind of meeting about this, and there's a process and reviews and all the rest of it. And I bet you the bureaucrats in the FBI, whoever's responsible, they said, look, we've had a look at it. These are the rules. This is how it works. We're very happy with the current situation and the level of protection that Donald Trump is getting. If you were a real leader, and Harris is claiming to be a leading person in this administration, then you would have just challenged that, pushed back against the bureaucrats and the system and the protocols and whatever is the appropriate thing, as it were. Said, sorry, that's not good enough. We got to do something better than that. He's already been the target once. We can't afford to let it happen again. I don't care what all you people around me in the meeting say. We're going to do this. That's actually what a leader would do. And so often I've seen in government settings, that is the scenario, not on every kind of issue, where you have the official advice, and it's the job of a leader often to push back against it. And what we've just seen, I think, is an example, and there are many, many more, because you see it in the way they run their administration, that in the person of Kamala Harris, just as with Joe Biden, I've said this many times, you have a totally transactional machine politician who goes with the flow, goes along with wherever the power is, and wherever the activists want, the unions, who are their donors, and in this case, the bureaucrats. And that is a total disaster. And so this whole incident, I think, tells us something really serious about the choice for president that lies before us. Someone who is strong and resilient and will stand up to threats, and someone who is weak and unprincipled and just goes with the flow. That is a very stark contrast. What do you think it's like running a business in California when you are, to coin a phrase, visibly conservative, a visible and vocal Trump supporter? We've got a very interesting pair of guests coming up who've had really direct experience. And the first people joining us are Frank and Jennifer, and they are owners of a store called Beachin in Seal Beach in Southern California, just south of Long Beach. And it's a really interesting story, a kind of shocking story, actually. And I wanted to share it with you. So Frank, Jennifer, great to see you. Tell us your story.
Basically, we own a little beach shop in Seal Beach, which is northern Orange County, just below Long Beach, which is LA County. It's always something, whether it's a physical confrontation with somebody who is offended by just seeing Trump, or it's emails, it's the internet, it's the city coming in on us for every little thing that these people want to complain about. And we just document it all. Well, we just recently started documenting it all and just putting it all out there for everybody to see on the internet.
So Jennifer, tell us a little bit about the store, because I mean, for those who can't see, some people will be watching on YouTube or on video, some may be listening on audio only. So I'm just going to describe what you're both wearing MAGA hats. You've got that Trump figure behind you, and there's a lot of red, white, and blue going on. So I think we get the vibe if we can see you.
Okay.
But can you just tell us a little bit about the store and why it's controversial?
Yeah, so we're just a little beach store called Beachin here in Seal Beach, and we're pro-God, pro-guns, and pro-Trump. And they just get angry because we have all of this merchandise in our store that is pro-Trump, and they just have meltdowns. And what we started to do was just capture those meltdowns on camera, put it on our social media platforms, and those videos go viral. And people love to see the entertainment. They want to see they love the attacks on us. They love to see the hate mail. They love that we get the death threats, and they want to see what goes on. But behind the scenes, I know it looks very, very extreme. There's so many more of us than there is of them. There's so much more support, overwhelming support from all over. People drive from all over. We have somebody literally waiting outside this door right now that drove down from Valencia just to come see us.
So what are the kinds of things that you get in terms of the meltdowns?
We get a lot of just more online keyboard warrior type stuff. A lot of complaints to the city about things being offensive in the window.
Come in here, want to know where the Democrat section is.
The best are the ones that come in. I love the ones that come in and just want to tell us that they're offended, but there's no end result.
What do they say when they come and yell at you? What are they specific? Do they want you to shut down, or they want you to take stuff down? What are they saying?
They'll come in and they will just say, how can you support a man with 34 felonies who is a rapist, who is this and this?
A racist.
And then you go to rebuttal them back, and it just turns to instant F you. You guys are bigots, you're Nazis, and then they leave. Or we have to tell them to leave. It just turns into name calling when you ask them for facts. Or if you go to rebuttal them and tell them, well, what about Biden doing this? Or what about Harris doing this? They don't want to hear any of that.
So, Jennifer, if you had someone, there probably are. There's lots of stores with, Democrat merchandise. Would you go in and scream at them?
No, I would definitely just pass by them. I wouldn't really care about their store. Probably snicker and laugh at myself, but
isn't that the interesting thing, though, isn't it? So these are the people who constantly lecture everyone on tolerance. And when you say they complain to the city, what is that? Has that resulted in anything specific? Have you had any actual threats to your livelihood, or anything criminal, or anything like the legal?
Death threat.
We've had death threats through the phone, and it's not from anybody even close by. It's just somebody, for instance, he was 4.5 hours away in Paso Robles, saw the videos going viral on the internet, decided he just wanted to call in and make a bunch of death threats. And I told him, I said, you're 5 hours away. When you get here and you still feel that way, I'm right by the pier. Just come on by. And they never show up.
And what about the city?
The city we've gotten a few citation warnings, not actual fines, just warnings saying take the merchandise down. For instance, we had a pedophile hunter shirt in the window, and they said that was offensive to minors.
Wait, so what do they want? They want you to, the cities told you to, what are they citing you for?
They said
offensive.
They said it was offensive merchandise, and then that's all that was in the letter or in the citation. So we posted the citation on Instagram and told everybody in the city, call the number and tell whoever so-and-so that you don't agree with it, that it's freedom of speech. And then I guess hundreds of calls went into the city, and then they let us keep it.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. I think it's really interesting that you've got this, total double standard. That these 100%. People, as I say, they talk about tolerance, and free speech, but like they just literally can't accept someone with a different view.
No, not at all.
They're just like hell-bent and shutting us down.
And a lot of it's just because of political.
Of course. Do you feel like anything's changing? Because there's a couple of things that I noticed recently that I thought was interesting. One, I live in the Bay Area. Of course, much more deeply Democrat even than in, that part of Orange County. And I noticed the other day there was a massive Trump merch stand right opposite Stanford University. And I went up to the guy. I said, do you get any abuse? He said, no, not really. I mean, some people just sort of snicker, but I get quite a lot of business and it's fine. And then the other thing I noticed, actually on a flight back from Orange County the other day, Southwest flight, and guy just walks down the plane. He's boarding the plane and he's wearing a MAGA hat, a red MAGA hat, just like you're wearing, Jennifer. And it was just interesting to me because it's become like, of course, there's nothing wrong with that. Like people should be able to wear what but there was something kind of shocking, even transgressive about it. And I thought it's interesting that he's choosing to wear it on a plane, but no one was saying anything. Yeah. And in other words, I was just wondering whether things are getting better.
Yeah,
they are. There's a big shift. Big shift. The silent majority loves the fact that they can come in and express how they feel now. Back a couple years ago, it wasn't like that. But now this year, with everything going on, especially with another assassination attempt, when anything like that happens, these people come running in and they want to buy stuff. They want to buy flags. They want to show their neighbors that they're for Trump. And it's a huge change down here. And we've really seen it a lot recently.
Thank you so much for joining us. Can you tell everyone where they can watch these videos and follow all this stuff? It sounds very intriguing. I'm just going to leave it at that. Tell us all the information that people need.
Well, our first Instagram got shut down. So our second Instagram account is Beachin Seal Beach with the letter CA at the end. That's our Instagram. We're on TikTok, we're on YouTube, and on the other channels, it'll just be Beachin Seal Beach. And then there's our online website, which is beachinsealbeach.com.
Beachin, so Beachin with no G. just to be clear.
Yeah, no G. Yeah, like the old, the old surfer saying, bitchin'. Beachin.
Beachin Seal Beach. Very good. Well, listen, guys, thank you so much. I really appreciate you joining us. And have fun.
Appreciate you having us on.
Right, and now, in exactly the same vein, it's a great, great pleasure to welcome my friend, Joy Miedecke. So Joy and I know each other. I met Frank and Jennifer just now, who you've been hearing from for the first time on Zoom, but Joy is an amazing person who started this organization. I should just say, I'll let you talk about it in a second, Joy. The East Valley Republican Women Patriots. Is that right? Am I getting that? Exactly. In the desert, Palm Springs, that whole area. And you run, as part of that group, and you'll explain how it all connects, a fantastic place called the Patriot store in one of the fanciest parts of America, frankly, that this shopping street with all the fantastic luxury brands you would want. You can tell us all about that. But you're selling a lot of Trump merch and Patriot-related items, and you too are having a lot of aggro. And in fact, with you, it's coming more from the local government. It's an amazing story. So, Joy, over to you. Tell us what's been going on. Actually, set up a bit. Tell us about your group, about the store, where you are, and then what's been happening.
Okay, well, we are in Palm Desert on El Paseo, which is, like you say, the most beautiful glam street in the desert, and is compared to Beverly Hills for sure. The top name brands, and here we are, the little Patriot store, but probably the busiest store on El Paseo, I must tell you. And this group was started in 1998. We left the Federation of Republican Women about 3 or 4 years ago, and we are now the East Valley Republican Women Patriots. And by the way, we are the largest group of Republican women in the United States with about 2,500 members. And we do have about 500 men also. So we do let men join our club. They just can't vote. So we are very, very active. We have Take Action Committee meetings. We have lunches with big names like you speaking. And, we are very, very active in elections. Backing candidates, and everything you can think of. We are the leaders in Riverside County, and we work hard to make sure that our efforts do not go by the wayside, that we actually accomplish something. We are a volunteer organization, probably have between 25 volunteers in here every day working. But in the front, we have the Patriot store. And that is the merchandise you're talking about. And we've been doing this for years. A long time ago, we called it the Trump Store, 2016. Anyway, we have shirts that have the Constitution on them. We have jokes about Biden, and nothing for Kamala because she's short-lived as far as we're concerned. We have funny things, nothing real derogatory. The people you were just talking to, they go for it. We're not quite that out there like they are, but we love them. And by the way, if you do go to their website and look at all the films that they have, you'll just die laughing. You won't believe it. People are crazy. We know people are crazy. And but for us, we are on this beautiful street and know several of the city council members, but the mayor, whose name is Karina Quintanilla, has decided that we are not welcome on the street. So she wrote a Facebook letter on her mayor's page, which is a no-no. And in it, she called us, and I want to read it, the extremist souvenir gift shop in El Paseo. And then she said that people, because we are frequented by many people from around the world, this is a place where people come to golf, to shop. I mean, it's a resort. And so she said the people that come here from other countries don't appreciate us. But I will tell you, the people that come here from other countries run into our store so they can first grab an American flag and then a copy of our Constitution and maybe a funny shirt and maybe a serious shirt and maybe a sticker for their car when they get back to wherever they came from. So she's completely wrong. She's never walked in our store. But she went after us with vengeance and said all these horrible things about us. So we, of course, said our piece in a nice way. We didn't appreciate what she did. But this was in actually a magazine, part of Palm Springs Life. And Palm Springs Life has a section just for El Paseo. And so there was a story written about us. And so she was going against the story that was written about us that says that we are a great store to have on El Paseo. And she said our neighbors hate us, which is completely wrong. Our neighbors love us. So she is completely wrong, but she keeps on. Now she is saying that she's having death threats. Well, come on, really? People went out and picketed against our store right after she made her statements. And I will tell you, 8 people showed up. But because of what happened to President Trump yesterday for the second time, we did call and ask for assistance from the police department because we don't want anything to happen to anybody that's a volunteer here or a customer. And she is the one that's bringing this on. So we have a real fight. And what we're going to do is get somebody that is running against her elected. That's our plan. We are going to get them elected, and then she is no more.
Amazing. It's an amazing story. The sheer prejudice. And again, it's the same conversation as with Frank and Jennifer just now. These are the people who lecture us about tolerance and all this stuff and compassion and kindness and whatever. And yet this is how they treat someone who just they happen to disagree with, who's running a successful organization that's full of energy and life and joy. I mean, I want to say joy because if every time I've been there,
and
it's such a happy place.
Yeah, and we pay our taxes to the city. I mean, they need our money, obviously. They made some real blunders lately, so they need our money. And we pay right on time. We do everything we're supposed to. We did not ask for this. This is a Democrat that hates Republicans. That's all it is. And she has been allowed to do what she did, even on the mayor's page, has not apologized, doesn't intend to apologize, and we can only get her out of there. That's what we have to do.
And what is she basing it on? I mean, when she says you're extremists, is there anything specific?
Everything in our windows is American flags. There's nothing in our windows that would be derogatory to any party. And there never has been. I have no idea why she decided to do this to us. But one thing that she did compare us to, and when she wrote, also was a Nazi. She compared us. She said there was somebody in one of the neighborhoods in Palm Desert that had a Nazi flag out. So they are compared to us. We're the same thing as them.
It's completely outrageous. And this is the mayor of Palm Desert.
Yes, the mayor. The mayor of Palm Desert.
And
by the way, she got to be mayor because she sued the city.
How did that work?
She actually got a pot of money, and she used that money to get elected. So she had never run for public office before. She turned it around. She did it because all these cities, the larger cities, have to district now. And the city wasn't doing it quick enough. So she sued them. And so she won. So that's why everybody seems to be afraid of her.
Amazing. And so she just did this on her own.
Yes.
And she obviously just can't stand the fact that you've got this strong presence and such a visible presence on this. I remember when I first went there, it was brilliant because I'd heard people had told me when I'd been in the area about El Paseo, and I'd never been there. The first time I went to El Paseo was to go to your store. And it was just, it is amazing. Like you go past, Gucci or Louis Vuitton or all this kind of stuff. And then there you are with your, I always think of it like the plucky, the Patriots with all this stuff. And you walk in and it's just like this amazing, treasure trove of all this brilliant stuff. And it's funny, as you say, and it's charming. And there's always people there. And I remember going there one time, exactly as you said. I think there was a couple just randomly, they were from Canada. And they were really excited to be there. So, this is so funny. There were some Trudeau things they found in there. And they just, and also the craftsmanship. I mean, you've got that brilliant, who does the jeweled sort of things, the T-shirts with it's amazing.
Right. That's Heidi. Those are Heidi's. She makes them all. She thinks of the design and she puts it on a T-shirt and people love it. So what we have, you can't get anywhere else because she's the one that makes it. She creates it. And so we are very unique. But we're in good taste. We cannot be on a street where Gucci is and not be in good taste. So I guarantee you, she uses real crystals on her shirts. They're beautiful. And people buy them every day. I mean, it's, oh my gosh, look at this. And a big flag for the 4th of July full of crystals and great hats. And we just have, it makes you feel good because you love America and you can put it on your chest and you can go out and you can say, this is me. This is my country. I love it. I'm willing to fight for it. And when I say fight, that means believe. Believe in everything our country stands for and stop all this rhetoric and craziness. Let's get a president in that we know will take care of us, and that happens to be Donald J. Trump. And let's go forward and stop this, because this is horrible what's going on.
Exactly. And it's amazing to me how so clueless they are, that they think that by picking a fight and trying to kind of run you out of town or whatever she's trying to do, it just makes you stronger. It just encourages it, doesn't it? It just makes you more committed to the fight.
It absolutely does. I have no fear. I think that we're in a very good place here, and we do have a wonderful sheriff's department. We're not worried, but, you know, we'll see what she does. We'll see what she does. In fact, I'm on my way to the debate in a few minutes that she's going to have with the candidate that we are sponsoring.
Interesting.
So that'll be interesting. I wish you weren't here, Steve. You
I know. Well, I can't wait to be back. It'll be exactly. That'll be brilliant. And one last thing I will say is that actually, just flipping now to the group, the amazing group you have, the East Valley Republican Women Patriots. I mean, the event that I spoke at, what was really striking to me is that it was a model of everything that you hear from the Democrats when they constantly go on about, you know, voting, people being engaged and in our democracy and people being informed and getting involved and all that. That's what you do. You have hundreds of people there and you have speakers. There's that lady who was incredible on, you know, the detail. She was giving information about the bills in the state legislature, the effect of these bills, what you can do about it. Here are the numbers you have to call. Here are the ballot initiatives. Like really good information, very, very serious stuff. You know, so yes, you've got the lighthearted, as it were, with the store, but what your group does is an absolute model of citizenship, I would say.
It is, and it's what everybody across our state should be doing, because we want to take our state back. We have a governor's race in 2 years, and by golly, everybody better be paying attention. You know, we just had a speaker who said, and it was very true, that we can do it in one election, but at the least 2 elections. We need to make sure that we take our state back, because this is a state that is going out the door. I don't know what will ever happen to the state if we can ever get it back, unless we start voting. Christians, 25% of Christians vote. That's all. Let's get busy. Sign up to vote and save our state, our beautiful state. I was born here. I love this state.
Well, I feel the same way, even though I wasn't. So we're on this. We're both in the same fight. Joy, just before you go, can just give everyone the information that they need about where to find out more. They can buy stuff from the store online and your group.
Okay, so we are on El Paseo and San Luis Rey in Palm Desert. Our phone number is 760-771-9771. And we have Tyrus coming. We have a couple of other people coming. We have a website. It is East Valley Republican Women Patriots. And we also have a website for our store, which is the Patriot Store 4547.com.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, Joy, thank you so much for what you do and for
thank you, Steve,
joining us today. It was great to see you, and I'll see you in the store very soon. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
And joining us for California Corner today, our friend Katie Grimes, editor-in-chief of the California Globe, your indispensable news source for real news, truthful news about what's actually going on in California. Hi, Katie.
Hi, Steve.
All right. So let's start with something you wrote about the golden economy that Gavin Newsom likes to think we're living in at the moment. What's that all about?
Oh my gosh, you just can't make this stuff up. So Gavin Newsom in July actually put out one of his top 10 lists, as though he was David Letterman, 10 ways California leads the nation. And I wrote about it. I did warn our readers that they might need to have a barf bag handy, because some of what he is claiming is absolutely fantasy. It sounds like he's running for king of the world. He, of course, is patting himself on the back. Newsom is widely recognized for his willingness to lead, repeatedly developing, advocating, and implementing innovative and groundbreaking solutions to some of our most challenging issues, Steve.
Wait. Did he put that in his thing?
This was on his website.
Oh,
verbatim.
my goodness.
I know. So
it's embarrassing.
Oh, it is shameless. It's embarrassing. And it just had to be exposed. So I did write about it in July, brought it back again because California Congressman Kevin Kiley, he gave a floor speech pointing out that the things Newsom is taking credit for is all hooey. And I linked to it also. It's Kevin Kiley's floor speeches are always worth watching. But what's just amazing is Newsom talks about tackling homelessness. Homelessness has exponentially grown under him, and now he is offering benefits to the homeless and the illegal immigrants in the state, so many of which are homeless, he's inviting them here. It's like if you put out food for stray cats, you're going to get more stray cats. And that's what's happened in our state, which is harming the economy. There's so much more in there. It's just...
What are the specifics that he claims as being a positive?
His positives are tackling homelessness and building more housing. Because remember, Gavin Newsom thinks homelessness is because of a housing shortage, which is completely wrong. He claims he's keeping California safe, and yet we know Proposition 36 is on the ballot.
Is this a joke? Is this like an April Fool?
It's not a joke. It's on his website, as these are all the great things he's working on. And Steve, he's creating opportunity for all, don't you know? He actually says that. It sounds like Kamala Harris's opportunity economy, whatever that is. He claims he's building a healthier California and standing up for California values, which he claims are his version of civil rights, immigration. He doesn't say anything about illegal immigration, environmental protection, access to quality schools, I want to choke, and justice. Well, his version of justice is environmental justice, social justice, criminal justice reforms. It's really not about justice for you, me, we the taxpayers, we the citizens of the state.
I don't understand how you can be so shameless. I mean, I really don't. I mean, on the school, the school performance is a disaster.
It is a disaster.
Gloria Romero, who obviously, we had on the show last week, and I did this event with her, which I, put together for her to announce she's joining the Republican Party and so on. And obviously education's been a massive issue for her. She was the former majority leader in the state Senate. I saw her again at an event yesterday in Southern California. It's a data point we should all remember. It's very easy to remember, which is that in Kamala Harris's Oakland, 75% of the students in the public schools are not proficient in English or math. Right. 75%, like 3/4. And you just think, well, what on earth is going on in these government-run schools? And he's bragging about the school's performance and opportunity. How can you have opportunity if you don't know how to read and write properly or do math in today's economy? I mean, it's just, I don't understand actually how you can. What was this? So okay, it's on the website, but what was the moment? Did he just sort of announce did he just put this out as a press release? Was there an event? What?
I think we know he has his sights set on the White House, and I think it's just part of him gaslighting all of us in California while projecting his amazing success to the rest of the country, because it was titled 10 Ways California Leads the Nation. And I hasten to remind people of the bill he signed into law that is turning California's public schools into a giant gender experiment on California's children, which prevents public schools from telling parents when their children are coming to school if they might be suffering from some gender dysphoria or, being told that they want to go by a different gender or name while they're at school. I mean, this is not only just undermining the family, it's messing with kids terribly.
It's amazing. So he's saying, I mean, of course, anyone can play around with statistics, right. But it is all, but what's interesting is that he's doing what exactly, fair-minded people would say you can't do, which is base a claim on scale rather than rate, because we are the biggest state. We have the highest population. So you're going to have the highest number of whatever it is. That's just goes with the territory of being the biggest state. What counts is the rate. So, for example, he's saying we are home to the most Fortune 500 companies. Right. The travel spending, right? So this, by the way, if this is your great list, right? If this is what you've obviously got all these people in your state government in your office trying to put something together for this bragging sort of thing. And it says, and this is what you've got. You can assume this is the best they've got, right? So home to the most Fortune 500 companies. Yeah, we're the biggest state. Travel spending reached an all-time high. That's the second point. Travel spending. What are you talking? So what, tourism? Yes, we're the biggest state. We have, I mean, what? Oh, here's the hilarious. This is brilliant, actually. Additionally, California, this is quoting now, has one of the most equitable tax systems in the entire country. Yeah, another way of putting that is the highest taxes in the entire country. That's
Exactly.
brilliant. That's almost genius. He's taken a negative and redefined it as most equitable.
Yeah.
But that's incredible. Most equitable. Yeah. So I mean, number one in the nation. No. Yeah, all these things, number one for this, that, and the other,
right,
mean nothing because it's just scale. But when you look at the rates, for example, we have the highest poverty rate. That was just confirmed.
Exactly. And we have the highest number of welfare recipients in the entire, we have a third of the nation's welfare recipients residing in California.
This thing is unbelievable. I'm so glad you brought my attention to it. Look at this one. We've got reproductive freedom. Okay. Gun safety, feeding kids. Feeding kids is a heading. It says, taking advantage of a federal program, SU at Sunbucks, already helping 3.2 million kids who would not normally receive meals during the summertime. So it's federal money.
Right.
And he's claiming it as one of the 10 ways. And also he's just saying, well, it's just 3.2 million kids. Again, it's a scale. It's just the fact that we have more kids.
Yep.
This is laughable, actually.
It is.
It really is laughable.
And they treated it like it's major policy.
Another one is belonging and unity. Right? Oh my God. No, you've got to be kidding me. This is one of the top. Sorry, I've just got to the last one. It's like a joke. This has got to be a joke. Someone must have done this as some kind of sabotage, like some kind of, not a whistleblower, but like someone having a troll inside the office. How can this be real? The last point on here, 10 ways California leads the nation. The heading is transportation. Wait till you hear what California is working on the nation's first high-speed rail system.
Oh, it's such a success, too.
You're claiming that as a success. It was supposed to be open in 2018, 6 years ago. It was supposed to cost $30 billion and be open by 2018. It's now, they've already spent $30 billion. They haven't put down a single mile of track.
We have no track.
Now 2024. They're now saying it's going to be another $130 billion and maybe 2034 if you're lucky. And it's just, and he's claiming it. This is too much. I can't believe, this is brilliant. I cannot just tell you how happy I am that you did. I mean, I completely missed this. But what it shows you is actually, and you know, these other ones are, you know, one of these leads, belonging and unity, LGBTQ, etc.
Right.
Research. Some of, you know, let's be fair, some of them are true, but nothing to do with him. You know, research and development. The University of California system is the highest ranking research institution when it comes to the most number of patents earned in the world. Oh, that's good. But that was set up decades ago. Nothing to do with it. Higher education, home to 3 of the top universities. Yes, some of these things are like great things about California that we should be proud of, but they're not the result of his policies. The fact that we have Stanford University in California is not like, it's just hilarious. It's I mean, absolutely. I'm slightly kind of stunned.
Well, I think it shows you also how absolutely tone deaf and lacking in any self-awareness, not only Gavin Newsom is, but his entire top team, that they can look at this list, which all they care about is his optics. If anybody in, you know, New York or Wisconsin sees this, they'll say, "Oh, Gavin Newsom, look how wonderful he is," or so they think. It tells me they're just a bunch of narcissists taking credit for a lot of stuff that other people did, well, as you pointed out, long before Gavin Newsom arrived in the governor's office. And then to also completely ignore what is going on in our economy that really does affect the people living here. You know, we do have the highest taxes in the country, and I point that out in the article. The Tax Foundation confirmed that for us. California does. I even put the Tax Foundation map in there, which is color-coded, and we are the largest, very, very dark state with the highest taxes in it, and that hurts people. He also ignored the fact that he passed the $20 an hour fast food minimum wage, which is causing fast food businesses all over the state to either close or lay off staff or automate. So, you know, I mean, you're harming a particular industry in the state. They just ignore all that.
Well, the thing is, I mean, you mentioned Kevin Kiley. I mean, as you say, he put out this. I mean, it was a very good list because it was longer than the normal one. So I often talk about the fact that we have the highest poverty rate, not number of people. I always make that clear.
Yes.
And the highest. Well, we're now the second highest unemployment, I believe. For the last few months, we were the highest unemployment. Now we're the second highest, to be fair. Oh, that's great, isn't it? Second highest unemployment.
Well, do remember, absolutely every time our state sends in the unemployment numbers, they then modify them the next quarter.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, we've had the highest number for a long time. I'm just trying to get to Kevin's list because it's brilliant. Yes, here we are. It's very funny. Gavin Newsom put out a top 10 list, 10 ways California leads the nation. Some are vague, like belonging and unity. Others are farcical, like high-speed rail. He's exactly right. Here are the omissions. I mean, it's a really long list. Worst on homelessness, poverty, retail crime, anti-business regulations, frivolous lawsuits, unemployment, wage stagnation, restrictions on workers, gas prices, housing costs, water bills, energy, electricity costs, inequality, income tax, gas tax, budget deficit, road disrepair, illiteracy, educational inequity, COVID school shutdowns, COVID business shutdown, COVID mandates, illegal border crossings, funding for illegal immigrants, people leaving the state. All ways in which we actually lead the nation. I mean, it's just amazing.
It is. It is. This is Gavin Newsom gaslighting.
I cannot believe they put this out. I can't.
I know.
I truly can't, especially the last one. I mean, it's just like a joke. Transportation. It's like, also, I mean, even they can't, like, how can they, California, the best they can say is California is working on.
Right.
I mean,
but I think it shows you they're also very unserious people, Steve.
Yeah.
Not
That's a
interested
great
in
point.
governing. Yeah, these people are, I'm being kind when I say unserious. I think most of them are actual frauds. They just want to hold political office. They don't want to do the hard work and the governing. And a lot of which, if you're a good governor or you're a good state senator or state assembly member, you do things that maybe aren't that sexy. You do things that help people out. And we're not getting that from this governor or his administration at all.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, I think that's a very, very deep point that you just made, and very important to be aware of, because it translates through to the whole policy approach that they have. Which,
Yes.
So they're unserious. They don't care about, it's like Mrs. Thatcher used to say this, the difference between people who are in politics to do something rather than be something.
Correct.
And the other point is that, and that translates through so their general approach, but then specifically on policy, where all these policy things, especially like you look at the climate stuff or whatever, they're even on their own terms, they make no sense. It's just purely for show.
It's
to look like you're doing the right thing and
yes,
ticking the box for the ideological supporter and the activist. But the real world impact is completely irrelevant. And usually it's actually not only a failure, but it's sort of actively harmful and counterproductive.
Yes, exactly. And we unfortunately have a legislature full of people like that too, because that seems to be what's going on in, I'll say right of center politics. We certainly occasionally run across some Democrats that are very, very honest and sincere in their policy pursuits and their, determination to hold office. I just don't think we have many of those in the California legislature, and certainly not in the governor's office right now.
It's really amazing. It's really amazing. There's another story you brought up, which I think is incredibly important for us to remember. I say this often, which is we mustn't let them forget what they did in the lockdown and in the pandemic. And every now and again, we keep hearing things to do with, learning loss or, business closure, whatever thing. And when people say because of the pandemic, but actually we need to be precise. It wasn't because of the pandemic.
No, it
was
wasn't.
the response to the pandemic. It was the policies that they chose to do, which other states didn't do.
Correct.
It was the lockdowns. And so we mustn't let them forget that. So tell me what you've been digging into on that front.
Well, back during the pandemic, when we were all locked down under Gavin Newsom's lockdown orders, in 2021, I reported that there were several U.S. governors who had ordered COVID-19 patients into nursing homes, skilled nursing facilities during the pandemic. Actually, I think I reported this in 2020 and then followed up. And they were blue state governors, Governor Phil Murphy of New Jersey, Governor Cuomo of New York, Governor Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan, Governor Tom Wolf in Pennsylvania, and Governor Gavin Newsom. They all ordered COVID-19 patients into skilled nursing facilities. And I remember thinking, what? I contacted California's Department of Public Health. I asked them what they were doing. Lo and behold, we found out that the Department of Public Health, I believe, suspended nursing home regulations for a while, allowing this to take place, which tells you this was very deliberate. And a lot of people died. A lot more people died. We did not, in California, protect our most vulnerable COVID-19 patients, which were the nursing home folks who were already there with illnesses or, other issues. And when President Trump's administration looked into it, they did start looking into it. They started doing some investigation into it. And then all of a sudden it just kind of died off. Like nothing happened to these governors. The investigation just stopped. And I wrote about it again. I contacted the Department of Public Health again. The next time they wouldn't respond. And then it just was like it never happened. And so recently, when it was reported that Governor Andrew Cuomo is now in the hot seat legally again, I think Congress is looking into him and what he did ordering COVID patients into nursing homes. I just brought up one more time, what about Gavin Newsom? I cannot figure it out why this is not happening, why there isn't even some sort of like a Congress-inspired grand jury looking into this, because there should be indictments for this. This was not just incompetence or stupidity. This was very deliberate in that they suspended the nursing home regulations in California to do this.
And it was deliberate at a time when we knew the facts around this.
Yes.
This isn't, as you say, it's not like, oh, we didn't know and it was an honest mistake. We knew.
Right. Yes. I'm trying to get a hold of members of Congress who are involved in the Governor Cuomo investigation or and what happens there. And frankly, to put forth not just Governor Newsom's name, but the other governors who did this as well, because we need to investigate what happened to these nursing home patients when they were exposed to the COVID-19 patients. There needs to be reporting on this.
Absolutely. It's really great that you're on this. It really is, because, even, and I take all that very seriously, and I'm constantly going on about how we mustn't let them forget. But
I agree.
I had forgotten this part of the whole story. I hadn't focused on it. So thank you, Katie. That's really great. Really great. And please stay on it and let us know what happens.
I will. I absolutely will. Thank you, Steve.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Katie. And remember, of course, always follow Katie Grimes at Katie Sack Citizen, and check out California Globe. I know you probably already all do, but just in case there's someone listening or watching who doesn't, it is a fantastic source for the real news about California. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you, Steve.
All right, joining us for Candidate Corner today, a fantastic, fantastic candidate. I'm so happy to see him. I've been out there trying to support him. I'll be doing more if I can. He's running to flip a district for Congress. He's running for Congress, US Congress, and it is the last Democratic district in the Central Valley. And this is the guy that's going to turn it around, Michael Maher. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing well, Steve. Thank you so much for having me on.
Okay, so let's start, as we always do in these conversations, just, it's over to you. Tell us a little bit more about the district and about you.
Well, I feel like I'm going to be like Karl Rove, but I don't have a little board and a marker, but I do have, that's the state, California. There's the Central Valley, and that little tiny blue dot is the district right in the center. And so the 21st district is right in the heart of the Central Valley, and the main city is Fresno, California, which is the 5th largest city in the state of California, but actually the 33rd largest city in the United States of America. And the Central Valley is an incredible place that produces really a third of all the produce and ag for the nation, and over 3/4 of the nation's fresh fruits and almonds and pistachios. And it's a place that has been riddled with challenges on water and really affordability. And I think the whole state is feeling that, as well as the nation. And this is such a great opportunity. I'm running against a gentleman who's been in elected office over the last 6 decades.
How
And,
much? What did you say?
6 decades.
60 years.
He's been in the 70s, 80s, 90s, the 2000s, 2010s, and 2020s. This is his 42nd election.
Oh my goodness. This is like Biden levels.
He was actually working in Congress in Biden's first term and attended Watergate.
Oh my God. And he's running still as an incumbent. He's running for re-election.
He's running for current re-election in the heart of the Valley. His name's Jim Costa. So he Valley guy, and he's been right from the get-go, went straight into politics, worked in the State House, the Assembly, Senate, already has a freeway, a section of a freeway named after him. Usually that's a sign that it's time to retire. And then he took his act onto Congress, where in his entire time since he's been in Congress, he's been effective at passing 2 bills, a post office getting renamed and a stamp being reauthorized. Other than that, the main issues that I talked about as far as water and ag, no legislation and no farm bill still right now. We don't even have that.
Amazing. Well, I mean, that in itself is just totally disqualifying. Also, I want to talk about you, but the narcissism and vanity of someone like that, like after, to sort of keep going and just think, yeah, I'm the best possible person to represent this area and there's no one better. Even within his own party, you'd think, he would just give someone else a shot. It's so kind of selfish and ridiculous.
Well, and he has actually had other Democrats have ran against him. He's just been entrenched. It's a known name. And their attacks on him have been pretty much the exact same things. What's been good for Jim Costa has not been good for the Valley. A direct quote from Assemblyman Esmeralda Soria. We can't afford Jim Costa as another thing that is constantly said. And the reality is when you have a person who's focused on really their future, they don't have any roots that they've established in the Valley, no future generations, children or progenies to go on. You can be a little disconnected and focused more on a lifestyle than you are focused on the people of the Valley.
I think it's actually a disgrace, and like it really is. I mean, talk about, I'm not, I'm kind of, I want to hear more of the arguments around term limits, because I've heard the argument that term limits actually can sort of do more harm than good, in the sense that they can mean that the staff behind a representative end up having all the power and so on. But you'd think there's a sort of just some sort of basic decency that that you just think, what, I've had a good run here, like I think it's time to enjoy my retirement. I mean, these people have no shame. Anyway, enough about him. Tell us about you.
So I'm a guy also from the Central Valley. My dad's a preacher. My mom worked in the school library. I went to the military right after 9/11. November 16th of 2001, I enlisted, served, actually was injured, got medically retired, worked back in construction, was a special agent with the FBI, did national security work all over the U.S. in Los Angeles, and married into a farming family. Have 2 boys in the local Fresno County school system, and really am focused on now how are we actually delivering and dealing with the problems that I've seen my entire life. I'm in my early 40s, and the same things that have been talked about every 2 years, the same exact issues have never been resolved in my life. And it's time really for a change and somebody to say, enough, let's get back to a government that's for the people and all the people of the Valley.
So you're sort of being very modest about it, but you've had a really serious career in serving our country already. How's that informed your attitude to this?
It's made me a little bit frustrated as I look across the state and I look across really a lot of our elected office of people who are taking advantage of really their elected position. And it's about being somebody instead of doing something for the people. And so my background in energy, I did nuclear power production in the Navy, and I built water plants and water treatment, and I built my education and my experiences in business aviation and actually producing value and producing jobs instead of just taxing and regulating them. I've dealt with the regulations, but it changes your perspective because you realize what happens when you pass a law or you support a regulation in a federal agency, how much it can impact a business, how it can benefit, and how it can also shut down business. And
Exactly.
Unfortunately, Gavin Newsom has done that like no one else in my lifetime, just regulating and shutting down this state. And we're seeing the same thing with this administration federally.
Well, that's what makes me laugh so much when you hear Kamala Harris, for example, as she did in the debate, going on and on about how she's a champion for small business. I mean, it's a joke. All they do, I mean, their whole instinct is to punish small business and make their life a misery with all these endless regulations and rules and the permits and the endless interference from the bureaucracy. And then they have a sort of gimmicky, oh, we'll give you kind of tax breaks or something. But like, what about just reducing the tax rates in the first place? You know, they just really are clueless, and they don't, because they don't have the personal experience. They don't have the connection. They don't feel it in their, you know, in their soul. I want to put it like that. They really, really don't. They don't really empathize with or sympathize with, or even admire, particularly, it seems to me, the entrepreneur and the business owner. You know, they're heroes. You know, activists and all that, which is nothing wrong with that. But I mean, none of anything that we do is possible without the business owners, the entrepreneurs that create the wealth in the first place.
Well, exactly, Steve. And look at the high-speed rail that cuts right through the heart of the district and really the state. That's $100+ billion. It's sold to us that was something it wasn't. And this is what happens when government is leading based on bureaucracy instead of actually experience.
Yes, we just talked about it with Katie Grimes. By the way, I don't know, did you see this? That it's literally, I mean, laughably, Gavin Newsom published a list of 10 ways in which California is leading the nation. And the 10th on the list was transportation. And he literally put in high-speed rail as an example.
Well, in high-speed rail, I look at it as an absolute disgrace. The French company that came in, that California brought in, the leading company for really doing high-speed rail, they fired the state of California. And then they were hired by Morocco. They went in and have done a larger, longer connection, and it's up and commissioned and running and serving the people in Morocco. And that's just the problem with regulation and bureaucracy. I might mention the background in nuclear energy. You want to give a stimulus. I want to do things that are equitable and equal. So if we start actually giving real energy, if we took that money and invested in nuclear and hydrogen and other actual pragmatic solutions to energy, and all of a sudden you're paying your electricity rate the same as you pay your water and trash because the money was invested in that infrastructure, that's an economic stimulus to the pockets of every single person, regardless of their race, color, and creed. And it's simple. And it's something that we have to do as we move into a more electrically demanding future, as we need more data centers to process the information that all of our computers are requiring these days. Education and school, everything runs on that. So if we are really bankrupting our state in the basics of what government supplies, and that's energy, and that's a simple solution that we need to bring. And it's something that we need to get back to the basics and common sense.
See, this is, so I love having you on, and I really wanted to have this conversation with you because I've seen you in action a few times now making speeches, and you just in that quiet way, you just convey such a breadth of experience and expertise in real things, in the real world. And it's such a contrast with the kinds of people, you know, you don't want to generalize too much, but the kinds of people that Democrats increasingly are sending us as their candidates, who tend to be from the activist class, and all they ever do is learn how to complain about everything, and they don't sort of do anything constructive.
Well, and the challenge I think with that is the changing generations and really social media and how we interact with audiences and people. And you saw that at the DNC when they're bringing in social media influencers instead of actual journalism. And that's what I love really about your show and other journalists that are involved still and actually reaching and actually trying to provide critical thought, a message, and connecting with an audience. And so what happens is we have so many people who have these audiences that are built around no substance. I hate to say that. And then you're thinking, we'll elect them. And I don't fault them. The guy I'm running against, he's been in politics his entire life. He does not know, nor does he have the experience because his life has been spent being a politician. And so I don't want to go beat him up on that. It's just the reality of it. And the people need to get engaged and start electing and changing from the school boards to the city council to U.S. Congress and even the White House.
Yes. And the really important part of that, I think, that for everyone to understand is, I always say this a lot around election time. It applies to the presidential race, but all these races. And you're a really great example is that, I've been in and around politics and government for many years. And the thing is that, at election time, politicians and candidates, they make their promises and that's fine. Of course, you've got to give people a reason to vote for you. But then the truth is that once you're in office, it's not as simple as just sort of pressing a button and implementing everything that was on your election leaflet and your kind of 5-point plan for this and that, because, it's complicated, right? There's separation of powers and you've got different interests and lawsuit, it's complicated to try and get something done, and you do your best. But actually what you're really electing is someone who's going to be there to face unpredictable future things that no one even knows about when the election's being held. And so the question is, what kind of person are you electing? And in the sense of what would their reaction be to these unpredictable future events? So I've said that in terms of, it's obviously very important in terms of the presidency. And you look at someone like Trump, and that's why I thought, that actually the debate was quite a good contrast, because you've got someone in Trump who's pretty clear about his, where he was coming from. And everyone knows where he's coming from because he's been there, in terms of some international thing that may pop up or whatever. That he's going to react to it with strength, American leadership, not going to be pushed around, not take any crap from the bad guys, etc. Right? You just know that that's what you'll get from him. Whereas with Kamala Harris, you have no idea what you'll get because she's just fake. She's just reciting lines that have been handed to her, saying one thing and then exactly the opposite 5 minutes later. You have no idea how she would react. Now, for your race and in Congress, I think the relevant point here is that you've got that, because you've had all this experience, if there's some bill, in front of some committee that you're on, and it's got a bunch of crap in there that you just know will be really on a scale of annoying to disastrous for, let's say, a business to deal with in the real world, you'll instinctively say that. You'll say, sorry, this is crap. We can't have this, delete, or whatever. You'll bring that mindset to stuff that we don't even know what these bills will be. We don't know what's good. And I think that's what people have to vote based on. What kind of person are we sending? And increasingly, the Democrats are sending these activist types, and they go along with all of this. And that's why we have this massive government bloat.
Absolutely. And the interesting thing, even in my race, so you have either people who are not educating themselves. They're like Nancy Pelosi. Well, let's pass the bill and then we can find out what's in it. And to be able to say that flippantly like she does, but that's the reality of how our legislative body has been acting, is passing things to find out what's in it. And now it's law. Now the business owners, now the people are having to deal with these regulations. And we need somebody who's going to look at them as well. There is a success of it. There's a piece of the pie that's being divvied up and spent. Are you actually getting it back to your district and your constituents? I mentioned Fresno's the 33rd largest city in America. It's actually larger than Atlanta, Kansas City, for a Democrat elected. He's not even bringing home the bacon in that front. And so when you have people abandoning really their duty as a representative, it's time for the people of all parties, it's a very purple district, to come out and support a Republican. And that's why it's exciting, because as we talk about California and the governorship, San Francisco, the Bay Area, and you have Southern California. The entire Central Valley will now be in Republican congressional districts, and it makes the entire center of the state of California a place where the governor, any statewide office, is going to have to focus on the issues of the people. And we have amazing migrant community. We have amazing Hispanic, Latino, Hmong, Sikh. All of these people are here in this valley, and it puts us in a place that we cannot be ignored anymore.
So let's finish by talking about the race itself, the dynamics, and where you stand. What's it looking like? What is your focus for the next few weeks?
So I'm actually just was at a downtown Rotary function in Fresno, a debate between the city, two county supervisor positions. I just finished a debate with Congressman Costa. We're getting another one coming up. We're having fundraising events within the community. It's a busy time, but the outlook is very exciting for especially a challenger. The polling that we have puts us well in the lead, past the margin of error on an informed ballot, which that means once the people know who is the choice for Congress, Jim Costa or Michael Maher, the people come over overwhelmingly to say, we want the torch passed. We want Michael Maher in. And that's Democrats, that's independents, of course, also Republicans. And that's an exciting place to be, but it takes funding and fundraising and all of that information to get to the people.
Why do you think it's interesting? Because it's not one of the more high profile races. When we see, newspaper articles or whatever talking about the congressional races in California that could affect the outcome of who holds the House, the ones you keep hearing about are, Mike Garcia, Ken Calvert, Michelle Steele, Scott Bohr, of course, in Orange County. All these are but they don't mention you. Why is that?
Well, a lot of these lists were assembled 2 years ago, or really when the state of California was redistricted in 2022 or 2020, the maps came out. 2022 election was the beginning of that. This wasn't a district that was supposed to be even possible for a Republican to win. I ran right at last election. We almost won with, frankly, being outspent 10-1. The state has changed. The issues have only gotten worse in the district. And we have a person. Those are general ways of looking at things. When you look at the future of districts, there is the other deciding factor of who are the candidates. And there is a candidate factor. And you have a guy who's a Biden era politician who's not delivering for his district. And you have a guy who's actually there, living, family and kids that the whole community can identify with. That's why this is such an exciting race. And that's why, frankly, this is a race that will be, I truly believe, the biggest upset for the 2024 election. I'll be the only former FBI agent, I think, definitely the national security side in Congress.
The only former FBI agent, well, there's a lot to sort out in the FBI. So at least if we have you there, that's something for you to. That's a whole other conversation. We're going to leave it there for now. But once you're elected, you're actually how you would sort out the FBI. That is a very interesting conversation. We'll have you back for that. So just tell us where we can support you and get involved in the campaign, all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. Just you can go to the website. My name is Michael Maher, Maher, kind of like Bill Maher, but real time is michaelmaher.com. You can donate, you can support, email, connect. Again, just go to michaelmaher.com. Love to have your support.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being with us today. Good luck with everything.
Thank you so much, Steve.
Okay, as I mentioned at the top of the show, it's National Constitution Day, September the 17th. I've just been thinking about that, and something really personal came to mind. So years ago, nearly 40 years ago, I was at Oxford University, and my course was Philosophy, Politics and Economics. It's called PPE. It's a very famous course in the UK. And my first year, 1987 to 88, we studied there's a paper called Political Institutions. And you learn about all the different forms of democracy and so on, and political institutions around the world, and you compare and contrast them. And so through that process, we learned about the US system. And I remember, reading the Federalist Papers and learning about the Constitution, all this kind of stuff. And look, to be honest, I wasn't the greatest student. I was fine, but I'm not a particularly academic person. And honestly, at the time, I just didn't really appreciate how important and significant the Constitution and our founding documents were. And what is so wonderful and incredible for me is to be here now in America as an American and to really see the value and appreciate those amazing founding documents every single day, whether the Constitution is upheld and supports our freedoms, or often, sadly these days, when it's being attacked and our freedoms are being undermined. Either way, the fact that this incredible document, our Constitution, still is the thing around which our lives are oriented all those years later is just so amazing to me. And it's such an honor to be in a position where I can absolutely stand up for the Constitution, for the values it represents, and for our great country. All right, that is our show for today. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you come back next week for the Steve Hilton Show. Follow us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll see you next week.